A new study gives us insight into who truly believes the most bizarre conspiracy theories. The answer may surprise you. I mean, it wouldn't be much of a segment if it didn't surprise you. And then we take a look at the story of a young woman and her necklace. But this isn't just any ordinary chain with a pendant on the end of it. No. This necklace is the master over who lives and who dies. And finally, we're going to take a look at the story of a young kid just trying to get some sleep. But things aren't going to be so nice tonight. The world of slumber will have to wait a little bit longer, because the woman in the walls is watching. Today on Dead Rabbit Radio. Hey everyone, welcome back to another episode of Dead Rabbit Radio. I'm your host, Jason Carpenter. I'm having a great day. I hope you guys are having a great day too. I hope you guys are having tons of fun doing whatever you're doing, and I hope you guys have some awesome plans for the weekend. I might go see that new Evil Dead movie, Evil Dead Burn, but honestly, it looks a little too intense. Maybe if it's a crowded theater, I'll go. I'm not going to go watch it by myself. I did see Obsession again. I bought it on Amazon, but then I also said, I'm going to go see it at the theater again. I'm going to go watch it with an audience. First time I saw it, I was by myself. I will say this, I liked the movie a lot better after watching it a second time. I think the first time, because I'm such a huge Curry Barker fan, in a way I was a little let down because it wasn't as awesome as The Chair or Warnings. It was still probably one of the best movies I've seen this summer, but watching it again, I enjoyed it a lot more because I kind of knew everything that was going to happen and I wasn't like waiting for a Chair-esque moment. But I'll put the link to The Chair in the show notes. I talk about The Chair all the time. It's the best horror short I've ever seen. I will say though, I bought it on Amazon because I'm just a fan of Curry Barker, right? I want to support him. I want to put my $24 towards his $400 million gross for that movie. But you don't stop supporting someone just because they made it big. You got to keep up the support, right? I saw it at the theater. I saw it with an audience. It was packed. I mean, the movie's still packing people in, even though it's available on streaming. Anyways, I do have to say, on the second viewing, you know what, actually, before we get started with that, let's go ahead and bring in our Patreon supporters, someone who loves Obsession, someone who obsesses over the movie. I don't know, maybe she hasn't seen it yet. Running in a Dead Rabbit Radio command. Running in backwards. Everyone get on your feet and give it a 4. Kelly can't get right. Woo, yeah, she definitely can't get walking right. She's doing it backwards. Kelly made a donation, sorry when I said Patreon earlier. Kelly made a donation during the 8th annual live stream special. That is why she is going to be our captain, our pilot this episode. If you guys can't support the show financially through the live streams or the merch store or the Patreon, it's totally fine. It really is. Just help spread the word about Dead Rabbit Radio. That helps out so much. Tell your friends, tell your family, tell everyone you know. Dead Rabbit Radio is your favorite paranormal show. That is how you can help the show grow. So let me talk a little bit more about Obsession, because I don't want to do a full segment on it, but this isn't a spoiler. I mean, obviously it's about a woman who goes insane because a man makes a wish that she loves him more than anyone in the world. But Curry Barker has a big thing about body movement and ramping up the camera to make people move in weird ways. It's interesting because there is a scene in the movie, and this isn't a spoiler, there's a scene in the movie that people are calling one of the scariest moments they've seen in horror for a long time. People are comparing it to the spider-crawling girl on the director's cut of The Exorcist. Just a creepy image. And I was reading this stuff online, and I go, well, I mean, it wasn't that creepy. It's just a woman walking backwards with the camera speed adjusted. So she walks forward, they reverse the film, and then Curry Barker, kind of tweaked with the speed. It looks jarring, yes. But is it the creepiest thing? Is it going to be one of those iconic moments in horror history? Is this going to be something people continue to talk about? Is it going to be on the top 10 scariest scenes list long after summer's done? What it is at this point, and we don't really know, it's up for interpretation, but the idea is that the real Nikki is fighting for control in her body, but she's not possessed or anything. Technically, it is the real Nikki still in there. She's just working against the wish. There's no demon. That might be a spoiler. You're like, what? I totally thought it was a demonic movie. No. It's more of like a hypnotized or drugged movie, if anything. She's still in there. She's always the real Nikki. That's my take on it. But she's doing these things against her will. And she's fighting for control. It's Nikki versus Nikki in this scene. I can already see all the emails I'm going to get saying I'm wrong about this. But anyways, the point is that she's walking backwards because she's trying to get away from him. But at the same time as she's walking backwards in this really demonic voice, even though it's not demonic, she's saying, "Rail me, rail my guts." And the voice is really distorted and the visual is really distorted. And the fear in Bear's face, Baron, is the quote-unquote, he's not a protagonist, but he's the main character, I guess you could say. And his face really seals the deal. Watching that scene at home, because after I saw it at the theater, I go, that was interesting. I've seen all this stuff online, people saying how creepy this scene is. And I sat and watched it with a theater full of people. They reacted like it was creepy. I'm going to watch it at home where I can really kind of like sit in it. I know the moment's coming. Because I'd forgotten really about it when I went to watch it the second time. It didn't really stand out to me. That might be one of the scariest moments in horror film history recently. I mean, it's really off-putting and upsetting in such a mild way. And my go-to reaction is, like, is there an actual, like, is this movie cursed? Is this 30-second clip? It's not even that. It's like this 10-second clip. It's so gross. And one thing that Curry Barker does in this movie, this isn't a movie review podcast, but he works a lot with the uncanny valley. So he distorts faces, but not like monstrously slow. Not monstrously so. He just makes them a little inhuman. Making the eyes bigger by, I don't know, half an inch in the darkness. Or in some scenes, she has her eyes closed, but she has eyes painted on her eyelids. So subconsciously, you know that her eyes are closed, but visually, you can see that she's looking at you. He's a genius. I mean, this kid's going to go far, and I'm glad he finally had his breakthrough moment. But it's really off-putting, and that scene is, I think, because it fits into that uncanny valley, it makes you queasy. Fantastic film. Dead Rabbit Radio recommends Obsession. Yeah, my initial review, I stand by it, but I do like it better more now. Better more now. That is my new review. Okay, let's go ahead and get started here. I was hoping to keep this as a short episode, but we're already kind of rolling off the rails. Oh, and also, before we get started, let's take a look at this here. Our fan art for today. Look at that. You want to take a ride in the Dead Rabbit Dune buggy? There you go. There's that is a real life photo of it. We had it made. No, Sovereign, longtime supporter of the show Sovereign, plays a game called Forza Horizon 6. A car game. That sounded kind of dismissive the way I said it. Hey, listen, there's only one game right now. It's Battlefield 6. But no, Sovereign plays Battlefield 6 with me all the time. He designed this car, the Dead Rabbit Dune buggy, into Forza. It's funny because that does look like a real photograph. But anyways, awesome. Little Dead Rabbit Radio logo. I love it. Thank you so much for making it. I hope it beats everybody. I hope it beats the Lamborghini. I don't know. Can you put any engine in it? A jet engine you're flying around? Thanks for the art sending over. Thanks for the art submission, Sovereign. It's pretty awesome. And I'll see you on the battlefield. We play all the time. This is the only game I play, so it's pretty easy to find me on there. Kelly, let's go ahead and get this party started. I'm going to toss you the reins to the Wabbit Wagon. I was just listening to an old episode. I forgot this vehicle existed. Everyone climb on board the Wabbit Wagon. This horse-drawn, old-timey covered wagon as Kelly gallops us out of Dead Rabbit Radio Command all the way out to a laboratory. Glump, 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 glump. That's the wheel sound. That way you know we're in a wagon and not just on a horse. We're headed all the way out to this research facility. And we walk in and we see all these, what I'm going to say, I'm going to start calling them all dorks. All these dorks are standing around in their lab coats and they're looking at these beakers and they're like, if I had beaker A and I added to beaker B, there's no fluid in there. I'll just smash them together. I have a pile of smashed glass and bloody hands. My hypothesis was correct. We're walking through this research laboratory, but you know what? We're like pushing all these nerds out of the way. We're like, get out of here, bro. We're looking for the real scientist. We're looking for the king scientist. We're looking for Severio. What? That's not how you pronounce his name. It's like, yeah, whatever. You don't know him. You don't know him. Now, I don't know if he's a king scientist. He's all embarrassed. He's all blushing in his lab coat. Let's cut to the meat of the matter, because the episode's already going long. So there's a guy, I've never met the dude before, but I'm not going to say he's a dork. He actually did this really cool research paper. I don't know how to pronounce his name, though. I found this on Twitter. He followed me, and a lot of times when people follow me on Twitter or Instagram, stuff like that, I'll check out your profile. I'm just curious, right? There's a lot of OnlyFans. There's a lot of OnlyFans every so often. I was like, ooh, a new subscriber. And I look and it's like, I'm so lonely and I'm looking for men over 50. And I was like, damn it. I mean, if she listens to my podcast, that's fine. But it sounds like she sounds like she's just advertising something. Click on my link tree for more, whatever nonsense. Saverio Rosasigno. He's like, I don't want to be mentioned on your podcast. I followed you out of curiosity. That's not how you pronounce my name, so I guess technically I'm not mentioned on your podcast. Anyways, this is super fascinating. This is such a fascinating research paper he did. It's called The Status Foundations of Conspiracy Beliefs. I really recommend you guys, if you're interested in this, to go take a look at his paper. It is online. It's in the show notes. I'm going to jump to the meat of the matter. There's a lot of different things to discuss with this paper, but I kind of want to jump to kind of what I think is the main point. He's like, that's not the main point. You've come to all the wrong conclusions. So what Saverio did was he looked at a survey. He looked at a couple different surveys, but specifically he looked at a survey from 2020 where they interviewed 2015 men. And what they did in the survey is they got their level of education, their economic status, where they are at politically, all of these things, right? And there's a couple different surveys that have the same information, but so he kind of collated all of it. But basically, it comes to this: what do you think about these conspiracy theories? And he focused on two. He was looking at all these surveys, right? He was collating information from these surveys. He focused on the two most controversial conspiracy theories that were asked of these men. These are all men. One of them was school shootings. You're like, Jason, weren't you just talking about Sandy Hook yesterday? You're really on a tear to get this podcast removed. I know you're going on break soon, so you don't care. This quote, this is one of the questions they asked, quote, school shootings like those at Sandy Hook, Connecticut, and Parkland, Florida are false flag attacks perpetrated by the government. And looking at his information, he said if someone had a bachelor's degree or less than a bachelor's degree, 14% of the population, this is obviously, it's a small sample size, even he acknowledges that, it's a fairly small sample size, but said out of the people surveyed, 14% of people with a bachelor's degree or below either agree or strongly agree that school shootings are false flag attacks perpetrated by the government. But if you look at, so those are the people bachelor's degree or below. If you have a graduate degree, you're like, oh, the people who are smarter than everybody else, it has to be 0, right? Maybe 1%. 14% of bachelors and below agree or strongly agree that school shootings can be false flag attacks. People with graduate degrees, 34% of people with graduate degrees agree with the statement school shootings like those at Sandy Hook, Connecticut, and Parkland, Florida are false flag attacks perpetrated by the government. Over double. You're like, well, now that has to be some sort of weird survey glitch, right? Obviously, it was supposed to be 3%, and someone fell asleep on the keyboard. So Saverio looked at some other studies, too, right? Because he goes, that sounds weird. When he looked at 4 other studies, the amount of people with graduate degrees who believed that Sandy Hook or these school shootings were false flags, it is lower. 26% of people with graduate degrees believed school shootings were false flags. So it's definitely lower than 34%. But when you look at bachelor and below in these other studies, 13% agree that they are false flags. So it's still double the amount. And if I remember correctly, because it's a pretty good study. It's quite long. I did read it, but I didn't write everything down on my notes. If I remember correctly, the other studies weren't focused just on men. They're focused on men and women. And he goes, that may be why the study he was looking at, the 34% was much higher. It's possible that men believe in conspiracy theories more than women. I'm actually don't remember if that was his conclusion, but that's, kind of what I got from it. He's like, this is my homework, man. My professor's going to Google my paper. He's going to listen to your podcast. Oh, I'm doomed. I'll never get my graduate degree. I'll never believe Sandy Hook was an inside job. Oh, no. No, this is fascinating stuff. So he picked the two most controversial conspiracies to cover. What's more controversial than Sandy Hook was a false flag, which I do not believe that it was. Just so we're clear. You're like, yeah, Jason, you believe it's connected to the Mayan prophecy. That's even weirder. Well, anyways, I don't think it is. I think it could be. But what's more controversial than school shootings were a false flag? I mean, that's what got Alex Jones. That's what got InfoWars taken off the air. The other one he chose was, quote, not like he agrees with these either. And it was really interesting reading his paper. He goes, whether or not I agree with these is irrelevant. It no more than someone who studies, like a sociologist who studies religion, tries to prove or disprove that religion. I go, that's super fascinating. That's really smart, dude. That kind of makes sense, right? Because he's like, I'm not saying any of this stuff is true. The other one he has is, quote, the number of Jews killed by the Nazis during World War II has been exaggerated on purpose. And it's really interesting added at the end, on purpose. I've heard people say, the numbers, they won't use the term exaggerated, but they go, maybe the numbers aren't that high. Again, I'm not saying this, but people will say maybe the numbers aren't that high, but who cares, right? And maybe it's just mistakes. Maybe they didn't count the names right or the numbers right, but whatever. If it's 4 million versus 6 million, it's still a tragedy. By saying exaggerated on purpose, that does add a malicious element to it. So let's take a look at what our college grads believe in. If they have a bachelor's degree or below, this is out of that survey of men, strap in, dude. If they have a bachelor's degree or below, 12% of them either agree or strongly agree with the statement the number of Jews killed by the Nazis during World War II has been exaggerated on purpose. Graduate degrees, 32%. Almost 3 times higher than those with bachelor degrees or below. And this paper goes on, and he breaks it down like political beliefs. He breaks it down on all these different levels. I could really go on and on about this paper. It was a fascinating read. Like I said, if you're interested in this, go to the link. This is an entertainment. It's my homework. I didn't know you were going to cover it just because I followed you. I didn't think you were going to take my homework and put it online and then misinterpret it and mispronounce my name multiple times. This is what I thought was really interesting. So what he says, and he does say this, he goes, other surveys done, don't show such high beliefs. He goes, a lot of surveys, most surveys actually, he says, find that higher levels of education are associated with lower levels of conspiracy belief. He does say that. He focused on this study and was looking at some other ones. Generally speaking, though, he goes, this may not be replicated across the other studies. I think it's real tricky when you're asking people questions like, do you think the Holocaust was fake? How many people are going to answer that honestly? If they truly believe in the hollow hoax, or the term that is often used. You're like, Jason, who uses that term around you? Well, it's very interesting. I have quite a few friends. I won't say all of them, but I have quite a few friends. They're anti-Semitic. And I have friends who are racist too. I grew up in an area and a time, but mostly an area where people were openly racist towards black people. And, I have friends my friends who actually were anti-black or racist against black people, they were members of white supremacist gangs. They really didn't have a choice. Well, I guess they had a choice not to join the gang, but I had a buddy who was in prison for armed robbery. This guy I knew. And he was a member of some white Brotherhood, Aryan I don't know if he was actually a member of the Aryan Brotherhood, but he was a member of some white supremacist gang in prison. And when he got out, I remember I was hanging out with him. You're like, why are you hanging out with this guy? He committed armed robbery. He joined a white supremacist gang. I was kicking it with this dude, and I was with someone else. It was me, this other dude, and the guy who just got out of prison. And the other guy said, yo, dude, so it's like, now that you're out, are you going to be like hella racist? Or are you going to be like super racist? I don't remember how he phrased the question. And my boy, he was sitting there, he's eating, he goes, what? He goes, nah, I don't believe in none of that stuff. He goes, I don't believe it. And it's funny because I've never really heard him be racist before or after he got out. We just knew he was in a white supremacist gang in prison. Even afterwards, I cannot think of a time that he was openly racist or even said something racist. We were sitting there watching television or something like that. Good Times comes on or something like that. He starts flipping out. He goes, I did that and I said all that stuff so I could survive in prison. I was in San Quentin. I'm not going to be like, hey guys, can't we all get along? He goes, no, I just did that for he did 7 years. He goes, I did that to survive. He goes, I don't believe in any of that stuff. That's stupid. Armed robbery. Now that's a genius move. And you know what's funny? He didn't actually even commit armed robbery. Well, he did. Technically, legally, but he let the clerk think he had a gun. My boy didn't have a gun on him. But the way the law is written is that if they think you are armed, it is armed robbery. You just can't stick your fingers in your shirt and go, stick them up! And then get the money and then go, haha, I didn't have a gun at all. It's still armed robbery. He did not have a firearm on him or any weapon at all, but he got 7 years for that. And he also, just to be clear, he committed a string of robberies. It wasn't just one time. He wasn't just down on his luck. He needed to buy some bread. I think it was like his 4th or 5th liquor store robbery when they finally got him. But anyways, people, I think, I know people who are anti-Semitic now. I think they're just comfortable being around me, right? So they're like, Jason, maybe that's more of a you thing. No, you know what I mean? Like, it's like I don't subscribe to race theory. I don't subscribe to being anti-Semitic or anything like that. But I think people are comfortable around me because they know I'm not going to judge them either. Everyone's on their own path. Now, listen, if they are getting ready to do something, I would intervene. But if someone's going to sit there and read the newspaper and flip out, it's just like, are you going to... I always go by this. I go, if you stop being the friend of someone who has beliefs that you think are bad... you stop being that person's friend, then that's just going to reinforce those beliefs. Doesn't mean you got to hang out with the guy all the time. He's like, hey, I was wondering, you want to join this protest? But anyways, so let's get back to this question. Let's get back to oh yeah. There are other studies that show that socioeconomic levels result in a lower amount of conspiracy belief, especially education level. But other studies show that that's not true. What's interesting, though, is I will say I don't necessarily agree with his conclusion. And that is, and no offense, but I was like, I'm going to call him a professor. I'm going to tell him you're wrong. I got the real answer. A guy who simply read your paper and didn't read any of the source material. Basically, the idea is, and I think he was kind of quoting other people as far as this goes as well, but this idea that Basically, this idea that most people believe in conspiracy theories because they feel powerless, and that would be people with low education, low economic status, people who feel like the deck's already stacked against them. Conspiracy theories help them make sense of a world where they're not just less powerful because of personal life decisions, they're less powerful because of some sort of global threat. And he goes on to say, nowadays with people having these graduate degrees and stuff like that, and he was focusing on men, he goes, there's a lot of things. He goes, these men may feel like their college degrees aren't as worth as much as they used to. I mean, that's pretty accurate. That's true. They're not as worth as much as they used to be. It used to be a sound investment, and, it doesn't mean as much anymore. He said also you have these men going to college, and there's a lot more women there. Most colleges, women outnumber men. So you feel, even though you have this graduate degree, you may feel more powerless than your father's generation or your grandfather's generation. But I don't think that's it. I mean, that's an interesting theory, right? I do think that there is part of the powerlessness that drives us for answers in conspiracy theories, but I don't think that's the only answer. I think, and I got to be real careful how I word this, I think the reason why people with graduate degrees believe these conspiracy theories at such higher levels, if this information is correct, like these studies show, is because, I got to be real careful how I say this, they're thinking for themselves. They've been taught to be critical thinkers. Now, you can have critical thinking and come to the wrong conclusion. But what happens is if you've spent your entire life questioning things, all your education, you're questioning things, you've reached such a high level of your education where you're constantly having to analyze information and come to conclusions on your own, you'll see information, let's take the Sandy Hook thing, for example, and you begin to question the official narrative, just like you questioned everything during your courses of study. You come to the wrong conclusion. I don't believe Sandy Hook was a false flag. I don't think that Parkland, Florida was a false flag either. But when you question things, sometimes you come to the incorrect conclusion. And if you are smart, you're smart, you have a higher education than other people, and you come to the wrong conclusion, how are you ever going to go back from that? You question everything but yourself. And that's my take on it. I think, and the reason why is, like, think about it. Let's go to the Jewish question. That was a bad way to put it. That is a term that is used often in white supremacy circles. But let's talk about Jews trying to take over the world, anti-Semitism, the Holocaust being exaggerated, all of that stuff. You will have two groups of people who believe that. You'll have people who feel powerless and they don't know why they have such a poor paying job, and they don't know why that their life seems to be rudderless, and they think, well, it's because I'm not Jewish, and they own the banks, they own the media, they own the government, so what chance do I have? And then you have Bobby Fischer, world chess champion, genius of the board. And he also is like, oh no, I don't trust the Jews. I don't trust the Jews at all. A genius and a guy living in a trailer park both come to the exact same conclusion. It's that horseshoe theory, which even Saverio pointed out. I'm sorry. It's literally different each time. I apologize, sir. It's that horseshoe theory. I've also heard it referred to as the midwit theory, where an idiot will go, oh, I love the Michael Bay Transformer movies. And a genius will go, dude, I love the Michael Bay Transformers movies. They're super deconstructing the entire American mythos. And everyone in between, the midwits, go, what? Those movies suck. But the people who can just enjoy the spectacle and the people who can read the deeper meaning into it go, dude, those first 3 movies are amazing. Even the guy in the trailer park is like, Transformers 4 sucked. The movie was trash. And the genius nods his head. So yeah, it's really interesting. I think it's because, not necessarily because the graduate students feel powerless, because I believe in a lot of conspiracy theories, and I don't feel powerless. I was thinking about this, prepping for this story. I was trying to think of a time where I felt powerless. I mean, I guess here and there, but it never coincided with my belief in conspiracy theories. So, I mean, and that's anecdotal, obviously, but some of the men may feel that. They may feel like their power is slipping away, but I honestly think it's more my theory. It's that when you're taught to question everything, you question everything, and sometimes you come to the wrong conclusion. Sometimes you look at the stuff and go, why aren't there any camera footage from Sandy Hook? How come they razed the building shortly after the shooting? Because Columbine's still there. Parkland High School, what was it? Stoneman Douglas High School still there. Why did they destroy Sandy Hook Elementary? You know, and so you do start to question those things. You start to wonder, why did it take place a week before the Mayan calendar predicted the end of the world? All of this stuff, and I think someone with a bachelor's degree goes, you know, they don't have all the answers, but probably not a false flag. I mean, you're never going to get every answer for any event, any mystery. But if you question, sometimes you'll come to the right conclusion, or the correct conclusion is probably the best way to put it. Sometimes you'll come to the incorrect conclusion. And I think when you have people who are trained to question everything, which is not a bad thing, even though I disagree with them on the false flag thing and the Holocaust being exaggerated on purpose, you should question everything. But I think sometimes you can question things and come to the wrong conclusion. I know I've repeated that over and over again. I feel like I'm droning. Kelly, but it was an awesome study if you guys are interested in digging more into it. Link is in the show notes, and then there's a little box where you can grade it. You can give it an A through F, and I would give it an A+. Good job. I can just imagine his steam's coming out of his ears. It's like, what did you do? I'm never posting my homework online again. I don't know if it's his homework. Honestly, I keep making that joke. He might. I don't know. But anyways, it was great. Thanks for sending it over. He didn't. He just added me on Facebook. He just added me on Twitter, and I was curious, but it's pretty cool. Pretty cool read. Kelly Can't Get Right. Let's go ahead and touch the keys of the world. Famous Carpenter Copter. We're gonna, which story do I want to do? Do I want to do the necklace one or the woman in the wall? Right? You're like, well, you've done cursed item stories before. You've never done a cursed wall story. Kelly Can't Get Right. Let's go ahead and touch the keys of the world. Famous Carpenter Copter. We're gonna say goodbye to this research. We're waving goodbye. We're waving goodbye to everybody. And you see my buddy there. He's actually getting ready to do another armed robbery. Look out, Saverio, he's coming for you. He's coming for your research, your very valuable research. We're leaving behind this place. Kelly, why don't you fly us all the way out to Denmark? We're headed all the way out to Denmark. Specifically, we're headed to northern Denmark. We're about to meet a young mother. We're going to call her Lucy. She lives with her fiancé, who we will call Peter, and together they have a 3-year-old girl. Let's call her Monica. Mommy. Jeez, I knew the second he said it was 3-year-old girl, this whole segment is going to be full of baby voices. Mommy, I don't want to sleep in my room tonight. Why not, Monica? Because the woman in the wall. She scares me. Lucy goes, you know what, Monica, we've talked about the woman in the wall. As Lucy's peeing her pants, she's like, oh no, not the woman on the wall again. Oh, it's so scary. It is a pretty creepy image. But Monica's been complaining about the woman in the wall for a while now. What happens in the middle of the night, she'll just wake up screaming, crying, Mommy, the woman's back. The woman in the wall. You know, and you gotta go in there and you gotta go, honey, there's no woman in the wall. You look over, you see a woman's face disappear into the wall. You're like, I don't want her to sleep with me. I'm just going to pretend I didn't see that horrifying vision. There's no woman in the wall, Monica. But Mommy, I saw her. And then sometimes she wakes up screaming, and when Lucy goes in the bedroom, Monica goes, the woman's in the ceiling now. Is that creepier? Or less creepy? I don't know. A face looking down from the ceiling? That'd be creepy, right? It would give me a heart attack, obviously. But I'd look up and I'd go, well, it can't get me, because it's so far up. I mean, I guess it could fall on me, right? That is kind of scary. But a wall, what would you rather be, trapped in a room with a woman trapped in the wall, and you can't have sex with her either? Because I know that was the first thing you were thinking. You as an adult, you're trapped in a room, there's a woman in the wall. You're just humping all the walls. You're like, listen, lady, I got a 1/4 chance of me and you having sex tonight. But, it'd make it a lot easier if you became the woman in the floor. Then I could just lay down, get some loving. You got splinters on. You're like, hey, Doc, I gotta see you. They're like, wow, do you have an STD? It sure is a rough rash down here. You're like, no, the woman in the wall, unfortunately my wall is stucco, so I keep rubbing up against the wall. And then she became the woman on the floor, and I was rubbing against the hardwood floor, and I got all these splinters. I got all these splinters in my dick, Doc. Can you pull them out? The woman on the wall, the woman on the ceiling. And this has been going on for a while, but now we're jumping ahead to the year 2026. What's been going on? Last year she was talking about the woman on the wall, but what happened was a couple months ago, 2026, Monica goes, Mommy, the woman in the wall is gone. Oh, really? Lucy says. Yeah, the man scared her away. Oh, you mean Daddy? You mean Peter? Nope. There's a man in my room now, and he scared away the scary woman in the wall. And Lucy could be like, okay, I don't know what's more troubling. I mean, let's assume that my daughter just has an overactive imagination. What's more troubling, a woman in the wall or a man in your daughter's bedroom? I mean, I guess that's obviously the man in your daughter's bedroom. But she can't see either of them. Lucy can't see either of them. Nobody can, except for Monica. That happened a couple months ago. Then in June, the week of June 7th, 2026, Monica starts talking about the man a lot more. The man's in my room again, Mommy, but he's not scary. He's just a guy. He's just sitting there to Phantom reading the newspaper. He's like, oh, yeah. Sorry, I like to manifest and read the sports page. June 16th, Lucy walks into Monica's bedroom, and Monica's sitting on her bed staring at the farthest corner from her bed. When Lucy walks in, Monica goes, Do you see the man? Lucy goes, No, I don't see any man in here. Monica begins pointing. He's right there. He's right there. Oh, Mommy, he's getting scary now. He told me his name was Fleming. The scariest of all phantom names, the 19th General of Hell, who commands 4,000 legions. Fleming is his name, she says. And Lucy goes, what? Lucy goes, my daughter... She goes, first off, listen, my daughter doesn't watch any horror movies. None of us do. She mostly watches Bluey and stuff like that. And she goes, also, I've never... As far as I know, she's never come across anyone with the name Fleming, which is an odd name anyways. But Monica says the man's name is Fleming. And last night, I forgot to voice. You're like, yeah, I was hoping you were going to drop that gimmick. Last night, Mommy, he got angry at me. He doesn't want us here. He doesn't want us here. Fleming wants us to leave. Lucy, I mean, like, you're like, my kids just have an imaginary friend. You're still not thinking a ghost or anything like that. Lucy tells Monica, well, honey, he doesn't want us here. You have a vengeful spirit in your room. It's not in our room. You can take care of it. No, Lucy goes, he doesn't want us here. Well, Monica, you just tell him that you don't want him here. Tell him to go away. And Monica's looking at the corner of the room where she was pointing at, where she says Fleming is at. She goes, I don't want you here, Fleming. Leave. Mommy, that didn't work. He's still here. You make him go away, Mommy. You tell him to go away. So Lucy turns and goes, Fleming, you gotta leave. You gotta leave this house. Leave us alone. He's still there, Mommy. But now, his eyes are gone. So, it's not working, whatever you're doing. In fact, it's turning him into a more gruesome fiend. Don't say anything else, Mommy. His skin will disappear. Just leave, just leave. I'd rather sleep with an eyeless man than whatever ghoul you may conjure up by your words of leaving. Basking in relief is what I meant to say. But anyway, so Lucy doesn't want to stay the night. She's like, well, man in a room, his eyeballs have disappeared. She's like, Mommy, I'm not sleeping in here tonight. Take me out. Because she won't leave. She doesn't want to walk past the man. So Lucy has to scoop her daughter up and take her out. And actually, now that I'm looking at this happened in the morning. That wasn't even like late at night. It was super spooky. It happened in the morning. And Lucy goes, for the rest of the day, Monica didn't go in her bedroom. She hung out everywhere in the house but there. But now it's nighttime. It's bedtime. And Lucy and Monica walk into the bedroom. But that's when Monica goes, Mom, he's still there. But I'm not scared. She crawls into bed. Lucy's like, oh, that's pretty cool. I guess she's not scared of men with no eyeballs. We'll have to talk to the psychiatrist about that one. But Monica climbs into bed, and then Lucy sits down next to her and starts reading her a bedtime story. Once upon a time, Monica, in the wonderful land of Denmark, there was a little girl who was gobbled up by the eyeless fiend while the woman on the wall watched. She's reading a bedtime story, and then all of a sudden Monica gasps. Mommy! He's waking up! Monica crawls behind Lucy, trying to get any sort of barrier between herself and Fleming. Lucy wrote, quote, the genuine fright in her voice kind of unnerved me. What is going on? Is something going on, or is this just her imagination going crazy? She doesn't watch scary stuff on TV. It's mostly just Bluey. So I don't know where she would have picked up something like this. Help a mom out. Unquote. So this is the last update to this, but this is kind of an ongoing haunting. This is happening less than a month since we've been recording this. And that is an interesting question, right? She goes, is something going on? Is there something paranormal that's happening? Or is this just my daughter having some weird sort of imaginary friend mental breakdown? Why, that could be the case, sure. I find the idea of this thing being in some sort of sleep state particularly unnerving. Because we don't think of ghosts needing sleep or wanting to sleep or even like taking a cat nap every once in a while. The idea that this thing would sleep, and maybe that was Monica's way of kind of putting it, moving from some sort of state of suspended animation to moving around. Which, I mean, it is terrifying. I mean, that's the thing. I find this story uniquely terrifying. It'd be one thing if the man was in the corner, like, doing the finger over the throat motion like he wanted her to die. Doing the finger over the throat motion like he wanted Monica to die. Or just yelling, get out, I told you to get out. My name's not Fleming either. I don't know where you got that from. My name's Johnny. I don't know how you got Fleming. You're making me look like a fool. But the idea, imagine that you walk into a room and you see a ghost sitting in the corner of your room. What's creepier, right? You walk in and you see it. Okay, let's do this. You're walking down your hallway late at night. You see at the end of the hallway a little girl standing there with her back to you. And you go, hello? And you turn on the hall light, and she slowly turns around. And she starts walking backwards. She's walking backwards right towards you. You're like, ah! While she's slowly turning around. Or you're walking in your hallway, and you see a figure laying on the floor, and you see a little girl sleeping there. And you go, hello? And she doesn't move, and you walk towards her, and you can tell it's a ghost. You're all stepping through her, like, oh man, Air Jordans, I just bought these, they're all covered in ectoplasm now. You see her, she's laying there on the ground, and you go, oh, that's weird. I think you'd have more of a reaction than that. But she's sleeping. And you go, oh, okay, whatever, it's been a long day. It's been a long day at work. I'll deal with whatever this is tomorrow. You go to bed, and you have to leave your bedroom door open because it's so hot out, you need the airflow. Every so often you wake up and you see a little girl, she's still sleeping at the end of the hallway. You can at least give her a pillow, you jerk. But anyways. And then you wake up and she's gone. The next night you come down the hallway and she's sleeping again. You're like, Jason, I get what you're trying to do. You're somehow trying to make it creepier that she's sleeping. No. It's not that she's sleeping that's creepy. This goes on and on for a couple days. You just see the sleeping girl in your hallway. And then one night you wake up in the middle of the night and she's awake. I guess it's not creepy. My example's not creepy. Like, how many times can you step over the ghost of a girl before you just move out? The idea of, okay, forget all that. The idea of a ghost being in some sort of sleep state makes it sound, it's not a ghost. Not a demon. It almost makes it sound like the one-eyed thing I can kind of think of. Okay, what do you think of? This isn't what I think it is. But if I asked you, what monster, what ghoul sleeps? Guess. Not that one. Unless you said the right one first. I'm going to pretend you didn't. Nope, the Chupacabra famously doesn't sleep. Try again. Nope, not that one either. No. Who sleeps? The mummy. The mummy sleeps. The mummy might be the only, like the mummy. The mummy might be the only monster that is known to sleep. Right? He always does that thing with his eyes. You're like, yes, Jason, in movies, mummies in real life don't chase people around. Well, I'm not saying Fleming is a mummy, but think about it this way. If I asked you to rank the power levels of like a poltergeist and a ghost and a little girl haunting the end of your hallway, and then the mummy, which one would you rather encounter? I'd much rather fight a poltergeist or a ghost than a mummy. A mummy is basically like a demigod. They have the power. I saw this documentary once starring Brendan Fraser. They can control sand. I'm not saying that Fleming is a mummy. What I'm saying is that something that needs to sleep or something that enters into a state of animation, a state of suspended animation. To me, if I came across something like that through my paranormal research, I would assume you have something that's so powerful, it needs to sleep because it actually expends energy. Something that goes from a sleeping state to a waking state, to me, is far more dangerous than any standard ghost or spirit or even a woman in the wall. Imagine that. Imagine it's just sitting there, frozen. Why? Ghosts don't need to sleep. Demons don't need to sleep. Mummy does. The mummy does. I guess witches do too, because they're human, but I'm not saying it's a mummy, but what I'm saying is you imagine the power that this thing must hold to need to sleep. If that makes any sense. Think about it, like I'm sure like top tier athletes, like I don't get a lot of sleep, but I'm not extremely powerful. I sleep, last night I only got 2 hours of sleep. I'm recording this at 8 in the morning. I went to bed at, I don't know, around 11 and I woke up at 1 and I've been up since. I'm not extremely powerful. But you know who is? extreme athletes, right? Usain Bolt and Messi and probably Lance Armstrong, right? He's still around. He's not dead. Yeah, I'm sure even NASCAR drivers have to get a good 8 to 10 hours. So I hope they do. They're like, I only got 2 hours of sleep last night. The Daytona 500 is in 30 minutes. Okay, everyone, let me drive around as fast as I can. Extreme athletes, I'm assuming, sleep a lot because they expend a lot of energy. Maybe not all the time. Maybe like when they're not running races, they kind of stay up late and party. But I imagine Usain Bolt, probably gets a good 8 to 10 hours of sleep before running around for the Olympics or whatever. So, based on that fact, that may or may not be true. Here's the thing. I just think it's creepy. When I read this story, I thought the idea of a phantom or some sort of creature going from a sleeping state to a waking state, it's like activating itself, which is not something we normally see in the paranormal world. I just thought that image was spooky. That's why I wanted to tell you this story. I did learn something else during this story. A bunch of people, she posted this online, a bunch of people were offering theories. It's a demon. It's a magic Nord, like a Nordic person, because she's in Denmark. I mean, I guess. People were saying maybe it was World War II ghosts. But again, it's because they're not really paying attention to the story. You show me another story where a ghost is sleeping. Unless, like, the ghost died because someone bashed his brains in when he was sleeping. And that might be the case. But can you find me another story where a ghost wakes up? For all I know, I've covered stories like that 300 times and I don't remember. But this is another fact I learned. Someone said, hey, your daughter... Of course, someone came out and said, I think your daughter's getting molested. And Lucy's like, what? She's like, yeah, your daughter's probably getting molested. That's why she has these visions of the man in her room. It doesn't explain why the woman on the wall would be there. But anyways, a little offensive to assume that this 3-year-old girl's getting molested just because she's having these visitations from an eyeless, sleeping freak. But anyways, also I learned this. So apparently someone says, you know what, your daughter might have a urinary tract infection. Because sometimes urinary tract infections can cause hallucinations. I didn't know that. Now, I've never had a urinary tract infection, shockingly, considering all of the other diseases that I've had over the years. It might be something that mostly affects women. I knew a girl who had them pretty regularly, and she told me it's because actually, let me rephrase that. She didn't tell me this is why, but a mutual friend of ours said, yeah, she's having another UTI. And I was like, what? And she's like, urinary tract infection. I guess there's 2 ways that they're commonly gotten with women. One is sexually sleeping around, right? Sexual promiscuity. And the girl claimed that that wasn't the case. She didn't say she was a virgin, but she definitely didn't say she had multiple partners. The other way, and this is what our mutual friend thought it was, she goes, I think it's because she's wiping wrong. And I go, what? This is not a conversation I want to be having. But our mutual friend goes, yeah, apparently, the other friend was a girl as well. She goes, as a woman, you're supposed to wipe front to back. This is disgusting, Jason. Go back to talking about the mummy. Please, I'll join your Patreon if you change the topic right now. Apparently, I don't know how true this is, right? A girl told me this. She said women are supposed to wipe front to back because that way they are moving the poop away from their pee hole. That's not the term she used, but, basically what it is. The urethra, the little tube. So she goes, if you wipe front to back, you're moving the poop away from your pee hole. But if you wipe back to front, some woman's listening to this, she's like, that's why I always get urinary tract infections. I never knew the cause of it. If you wipe back to front, there's a chance, while slim, it's not 0 though. If you wipe from back to front, you actually run the risk of getting poop into damn it, Jason. I don't know what's more disturbing. The fact that this is a real thing, Or the fact that someone was telling you about this about your mutual friend. Listen, I didn't know. I still don't know why she had the UTIs all the time. But her friend goes, I think she's wiping wrong. She's wiping back to front. She's getting poop in her urethra, and that's getting infected. She's getting a urinary tract infection. That's disgusting. I didn't need to know any of that. I didn't need to know that my friend had a urinary tract infection. I didn't need to know that there was a special way that women are supposed to wipe themselves. And ladies of the fluffle, you can correct me if I'm wrong on that, but apparently that's all the information I've ever gotten on it. And I've never Googled it. I've never asked it. I've never tried to reconsider that. I just go, that's disgusting, and I'm never going to think about it again. And then here I am talking about it on the podcast. So apparently you can get a urinary tract infection hallucination, which if you think about it, if you want to like trip balls, right? You don't have any mushrooms, you're out of LSD, you could. Like, don't say it. Jason, don't say it. I mean, I don't know how common UTI hallucinations are, but if it's pretty common and you really want to trip out, you could probably just wipe back to front and you're a psychonaut now. You're traveling through the world of hallucinations. But I think there's also other things that come along with UTI, including burning sensations while you pee. So if that's worth it to you, if the hallucinations are worth it. Well, so I found out that you can have hallucinations from UTI, but I also found out this. Lucy is a healthcare worker. And she said, when someone says maybe she's having UTI hallucinations, Lucy says, quote, I work as a healthcare worker, and I can smell a urinary tract infection from across the town. Not just the room. She could be in the town square and someone pulls into the city limits and she goes, someone's wiping wrong. And I can smell a UTI from across the town. It's not a UTI. So I didn't know they had a scent attached to them. I mean, imagine being so infected. Imagine being so infected the minute you entered city limits, all the nurses in town could go, someone needs to see us and see us soon. So there's a little bit of Dead Rabbit trivia for you. You can wipe wrong and get poop in your pee hole. It also can smell so bad. I mean, I'm sure that's an exaggeration from across town, but even from across the room, I've never had an infection that people could smell. But apparently a UTI is one of them. So disgusting, right? You're like, oh, I thought I was just getting a ghost story at the ending. But of course, Jason found the grossest things to talk about it. I just find this story creepy, the idea of the ghost waking up. For whatever reason, that visual kind of creeps me out. And this is an ongoing story. There's been no more updates on it. There may not be. I mean, and I'm not saying that the phenomenon went away. It could just remain at such a low level that it doesn't require other intervention, like a medium coming or a spiritual advisor coming or something like that. It may just be the man in the room. And like she said, is something going on? She may still think this is an imaginary friend. We don't know. We don't know. But that is all the time we have for today. Hopefully this family's not in any real paranormal danger. Although, honestly, it kind of sounds like they are. So next week is the last week of new episodes for Dead Rabbit Radio, and then we're going to be taking a break that I take every year. I'm going to take a month off in summer, where I watch a bunch of movies and hang out with family. I won't be in town, so I won't have my mic. We're going to have one more episode. We're going to have one more week of new episodes, and then we're going to do some Dead Rabbit Radio classics. I have a bonus episode I'm going to throw in as well. This is all hypothetical. This is all assuming I can get all of this stuff done in the next week before I leave. Oh, jeez, it sounds like so much work, but let's see what we can do. If for some reason the classics stop abruptly, I just kind of ran out of time. It's poor planning on my part, but I apologize. I'm trying to figure out a better way to end this episode, but I can't really think of one. But anyway, so yeah, next week we're going to have some new episodes, and then we'll have classics, and I'll be back with new stuff. Whatever. Let's just go and wrap this episode up. I didn't even plan out the ending. I got that plan out 3 more weeks of content while I'm gone, but I can't even get this ending planned out. DeadRabbitRadio@gmail.com is going to be our email address. You can also hit us up at Facebook.com/DeadRabbitRadio. TikTok is at DeadRabbitRadio. Dead Rabbit Radio is the daily paranormal, conspiracy, and true crime podcast. You don't have to listen to it every day, but I'm so glad you listened to it today.